Good morning to the Honorable Ministers of the Council, members of the media, radio listeners via Simratinga Radio 107.9 FM, respective radio stations island-wide, online viewers, and Tel TV Plus Channel 15 viewers. I'm Rolika Roach, and welcome to the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, September 18th, 2024. At this time, I would like to invite the Honorable Minister of Tourism, Economic Affairs, Transport and Telecommunication, Grisha Heilige Martin, to address you. Minister Heilige Martin, you have the floor.
Thank you, Rolika. Colleagues, my fellow colleagues of the Council of Ministers, to the media present, and to the people of St. Martin, a pleasant good morning to one and all. I'd like to start off today by announcing that this morning flight operations was disrupted due to a generator failure at the airport during the GEBE power outage. I have been informed that the generator was down for approximately an hour and a half, but is fully operational again since 7 a.m. this morning. I'd like the community to know that I'm monitoring the situation closely and have requested a thorough investigation to determine the cause of the failure. Seemingly, it's one of the new generators, and our goal is to find out what the permanent solution is, as we simply cannot afford to have this happen again. With regards to Win Air and Z Air flight operations, recently many have asked, why is Z Air not flying to St. Martin? To be clear, Z Air has been granted approval to operate flights to St. Martin by my person, pending an update from the FAA regarding their oversight agreement up until April 2025. However, the reason for the delay in their operation is something only the airline can clarify. From our end, all necessary permissions has been granted, and similarly, when Nair has requested and received permission from Curaçao to operate 10 flights daily. So, however, to date, we have not heard any update from the Z Air regarding their plans for flights between Curaçao and St. Martin, but we hope to receive more information soon and to provide clarity as to why they're not operating as yet. But just so that the public knows that it is on our end, they're free to fly until we receive an update from the FAA regarding their oversight agreement. As you are aware, next week, Friday, September 27th, we will be celebrating World Tourism Day. This year's theme is Tourism and Peace. Tourism remains one of the largest industries in the world, with the World Travel and Tourism Council, the WTTC, reporting that travel and tourism contributes to 10.1% of the global GDP since in 2017. Additionally, 20% of jobs created from 2008 to 2017 were directly linked to the tourism industry. In St. Martin, I believe there's a need to bridge the gap between our tourism industry and the education system. If we do not reach our youth, if we do not teach our youth the significance of tourism, they will lack the motivation to protect this vital sector. I believe the future of tourism lies in the hands of our youth, which is why we're focusing this year's World Tourism Celebration on engaging them. With this in mind, we decided to focus our efforts into a key focused activity for World Tourism Days for the youths next week. So we have about 52 students next week and 5 teaching staff accompanied by 3 officials from St. Martin Tourist Bureau. They will be touring one of the Royal Caribbean cruise ships. We also have 2 groups of 15 students accompanied by 3 adults who will experience an aerial tour of the island aboard the Win Air, our national carrier. In addition, we have additional groups of students that will visit key tourism sites, including the Sonesta Maho, as well as the airport and harbor, to gain a first-hand experience of what tourism means for our island. The goal is to make tourism studies an integral part of the school curriculum in collaboration with the Minister of Education ensuring that the crucial industry remains sustainable through the innovation and creativity and entrepreneurial spirit of the youth. In addition, we have other activities next week, slated for next week. So on September 27, next week, Friday, we have tourism-related quizzes that will be held throughout various radio stations such as My 88, Laser 101, and the Voice of St. Martin 102.7 FM. We're going to be giving out great prizes such as tours, hotel stays, Ryanair flights as well. And all of these will be awarded. And in some restaurants as well, as restaurant dinners or lunches. Then we will have, followed by an award ceremony, we will recognize and honor 8 individuals who have made significant contributions to our tourism sector. I would like to take this opportunity to express my gratitude to the harbor, the airport, Ryanair, Sonesta Mahu, and all tourism-related stakeholders, such as the restaurants and tour operators, and for their support in celebrating World Tourism Day next week. And your efforts have helped make tourism engaging and impactful for our community. I encourage the public to participate in this year's celebration. As we always say, tourism is everybody's business, and it is important that we all play a part in the continued success. I thank you for your attention, and I look forward to the questions in the afternoon, or I mean the afternoon, a little later. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Heiliger Martin. At this time, I would like to invite the Honorable Minister of Public Health, Social Development and Labor, Veronica Janssen-Webster, to address you. Minister Janssen-Webster, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good morning to everyone. Today I would primarily like to address the developments at the Highest Arts and Post, the HAP. As Minister of VSR, I would like to let you know that I firmly believe that the HAP and its intended purpose are crucial to our healthcare system. It should have served to alleviate overcrowded emergency rooms and reduce service delays, which are important for the well-being of our citizens. However, we cannot ignore the facts. The HAP was launched as a pilot project in June 2023 as a 6-month project, followed by an evaluation of the project to determine how to proceed. The contract was extended by another 6 months by SZV right before the election in December 2023. When I assumed office in May, SZV was already preparing to terminate the services because of irregularities discovered in the billing of the HAP. SZV informed the HAP 1 week before the end of the second contract that they would discontinue the contract because the financing of the project was not sustainable. However, knowing how important the community deems the HAP, I asked SZV to give the HAP a chance to address the serious allegations and operational irregularities they were facing with an extension of 3 months so that the SZV audit could be finalized and a thorough evaluation could be done so that we could see how to proceed in the best way for everyone. A meeting was held with Dr. Denouy, SZV, and myself on June 18, 2024 to discuss the points of improvement and the way forward. To ensure a fair evaluation, I commissioned a special evaluation committee composed of individuals with diverse expertise from within the ministry and relevant stakeholders. After receiving the report from this evaluation committee, SZV proceeded to issue the notice of termination of the HAP. After the notice was sent, I was informed of the letter that was sent. In good faith, I extended the HAP's contract by 3 months back in June, hoping they would rectify the issues. Furthermore, I initiated the evaluation committee and received the recommendations on September 3rd. The evaluation revealed serious concerns, some of which I can mention. There was no clear distinction between after-hours GP services, so the HAP, and regular St. Martin Diagnostic Center services. There were reportedly no significant decreases observed in emergency numbers at St. Martin Medical Center. There was no liability insurance, at St. Martin Diagnostic Center, which presents a significant risk, not only for our community, but especially for our fragile tourism industry with tourists frequenting the establishment. There were no internal protocols for triage, so for determining the urgency of medical cases. The inconsistency of prescriptions and billings from St. Martin Diagnostic Center and the HAP raised further red flags. It could not be determined through which company SZV was being billed. There are many other critical issues that could have been addressed by the HAP, the operators of the HAP, in between June and now. But I must say that despite St. Martin Diagnostic Centers and the MP's claims, the data received by the committee do not support that a HAP has significantly reduced the burden on the emergency room. Even with 7,000 persons using the services, 83% of whom were covered under SZV, the number still did not show a substantial impact on emergencies, which shows that the evaluation points more in the direction of us perhaps having to explore options to extend regular GP hours. It is again unfortunate that politics seems to be played with an issue as sensitive as this. In his statement, the former minister suggests that the closure of the HAP could lead to a public health crisis. Let me be clear, allowing the HAP to continue operating in the manner it would continue to cut deeply into our healthcare budget and ultimately undermine the quality of care that our citizens deserve. Irresponsible management of public health funds is more likely to lead to a public health crisis than closing an operation that fails to meet critical standards. I can stand here today and politicize as well. I can show you emails that were sent to me by the doctor following our June 18th meeting, threatening to go to the media if I decide to close the HAP, followed by an apology. The doctor and the former Minister of Health, the current MP, also hosted a radio program together 3 days before elections, in which they indicated that I was closing the HAP and a vote for me would be a vote for the closure of the HAP. This radio appearance was also followed by another apology from the doctor. I will reiterate that the contract is between SZV and the HAP. At no time did I close the HAP. We believe in the value of a well-functioning HAP, and we know it is needed in St. Martin, but it must meet its obligations and operate within the agreed-upon standards. We cannot tolerate mismanagement at the expense of public health. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Johnson-Webster, for your opening remarks. At this time, I would like to invite the Minister of Public Housing, Spatial Planning, Environment, and Infrastructure, Patrice Gumbs Jr., to address you. Minister Gumbs, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good morning. Somehow I always seem to be right after the most controversial news. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I'd like to begin this morning with a very brief update from GBE regarding the blackout that occurred this morning. So, at 4:30 this morning, the island experienced a total blackout. At that time in the morning, the load is at the lowest. Therefore, GBE is certain it has nothing to do with capacity. Based on the preliminary analysis of the data, it seems that the instability is with the frequency. This resulted in the plant shutting down completely, including the new containerized engines as well. Between 8:30 and 9 a.m., all engines were back online. While bringing the engines online, the focus, of course, was on critical infrastructure, so the hospital, police station, airport, water plant, and the schools. And that is the update currently for now. From the side of the inspection department within VROMI, we are currently actually investigating a number of complaints received regarding ongoing construction on Simpson Bay Beach in the area of the airport. Over the weekend, I myself personally visited the site. Unfortunately, no work was ongoing at the time. The inspector department has also, during the last week, visited, but unfortunately was unable to come at a time when persons were actually on site. Important to note is that the company does have a building permit. The building permit is for temporary structure, which involves containers, and this permit was signed on May 2nd of this year. Noting, of course, that we will be investigating because the allowance on beaches is temporary structures. This temporary structure can, of course, include a concrete platform in which to bolt containers down. But of course, in initial observations, it seems as though the approval was done for something which is also a bit more than a temporary structure. So we're currently reviewing what was approved by the previous administration. Regarding, of course, the ongoing cleanup, I won't go too much into it because we've discussed it this morning in a press release, but also to just a kind reminder to everyone, while the ministry, of course, and government is responsible legally for the maintenance of good environment, it does take two to tango. We cannot continue illegally dumping in and around the ring road. We cannot continue to dump toilets and washing machines in the garbage bins. Dumping at the dump is currently free. It takes the time to just drive to the dump and properly dispose of your waste there. As I've indicated 2 weeks ago in press briefing, we are currently working on a complete revamping of the waste ordinance, the enforcement of the current one, of course, as well as the realization of a tipping fee. The cost associated with dumping of garbage is not sustainable, and government has to make a more sustainable approach, to which we're working on to dealing with our waste problems. An update from 2 weeks ago as well, where I indicated that the government's equipment is down. In the past 2 weeks, we've managed to secure a third party who at the time himself had damaged equipment. His equipment is currently the one compacting and ensuring that the material brought to the dump can be processed and handled properly. Finally, not finally actually, before I start, remember also too that the resurfacing project will commence the first week of October. It's quite detailed in today's press release what that resurfacing will include, and please pay attention because what we will be doing is having a very comprehensive plan as to how that will take place. Certain elements, of course, will be done to mitigate all impact towards the economy, particularly the cruise tourism and any tourists visiting, as well as the regular day-to-day operations of St. Martiners here. And now finally, of course, my final comment. On Saturday, 21st of September, as Minister of Rami, I am very proud to announce that the International Coastal Cleanup, an annual event, will be taking place from 7 a.m. to 8:30 at Little Bay Beach and Pond. I myself will be unable to attend. I'll be off island on business, but I do encourage everyone to come out. And please realize that we cannot continue to complain about the environment if you don't take an active part in protecting it. And that is it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Gums, for your opening remarks. If you've just joined us, you are watching the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, September 18th, 2024. Thank you for joining us. We now move over to the question and answer session. However, before we begin, I would like to inform that the Honorable Minister of Justice and the Acting Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport, Lyndon Lewis, is here. However, will not be making any opening statements, but available for any questions the media may have. I'm opening the floor now, and Bibi Hot Shaw of SMN News, you have the floor.
Thank you, Relaika. Good morning, ministers. My first question, the Minister of TIAC, please, Ms. Heilige Martin. Ms. Martin, I think it was last week you sent out a press release addressing the situation of the disgruntled tourists and offering them a free, all-exclusive vacation back to St. Martin. What is the legal basis for such, for allocating taxpayers' money for free vacation for the so-called disgruntled tourists? Was this budgeted? Was the budget amendment made? And how much money is involved in the free-for-all exclusive vacation? Do you also envision opening a Pandora box for a country that is claiming to be bankrupt?
Thank you, Bibi Shah, for that question. First and foremost, we always act in accordance with what is budgeted. Secondly, the reason for that handwritten apology to that tourist was mainly because of the optics. We know the details. locally, but internationally, they do not know the details, and that can hurt us internationally as well. So the offer to have a vacation is mainly within the budget of government, and it is in collaboration with a hotel. I'm not going to be mentioning the name of the hotel, but the hotel also has granted a free stay. So it's not a huge dent in our budget, and we're looking at maybe 1 or 2 tickets, not the entire family, just the husband and wife. And I think, what was the latter part of your question, Bibi?
If you envision opening a Pandora box.
Oh, no, no. I envision making sure that our tourism product is protected at all costs. And that's important. Remember, tourism is 70% of our GDP, so I will be the minister to protect that at all costs. Thank you, Bibi, for your questions.
Thank you, Minister. We now move on to Emily of Island 92 Radio. You have the floor.
So I can change the...
Yes, correct.
So I have a question for the Minister of VSR. Good morning.
Good morning again.
I did watch the presentation that you made to Parliament about the SAHA, or the General Health Insurance. So after the presentation that you made, I've tried to get in contact with a number of stakeholders to ask them about their feelings about the draft legislation. All of them have said that they don't actually have the draft legislation to review, which would lead questions to the consultative process that the ministry has gone through. So if SZV, Parliament, SHTA don't have copies of the draft legislation, how could they have given their feedback on the current legislation? So are you personally, as minister, in agreement with the draft legislation? And is the incoming coalition also in agreement with the current draft legislation?
Okay. I will try to remember all of the questions. First of all, when I assumed the position, I also noticed that there was a lack of consultation with stakeholders. So what I would do is, every meeting that I had, I would ask people 2 questions. What do you think about general health insurance? And what do you think about cannabis? There are two issues that I would always ask in every meeting. So I noticed that a lot of people indicated that they did not receive the information, and therefore, when I heard it from the general practitioners, I scheduled a meeting right away with them, with the WIMA, so that we could inform them about general health insurance, and actually all of the medical stakeholders. So on August 8th in the evening, we had a general session with all medical stakeholders, so the pharmacies, mental health, Turning Point, the general practitioners, the medical center, so all of the medical stakeholders that we could think of, and it was well attended, and we gave that presentation. The thing with the general health insurance is, because there was no SER, it was not continuing, so it was kind of stagnant when I came in. Actually, since 2022, April, there was no functioning SER, so as such, nothing much could be done, let's say, to move forward. But the SER came into, so the board was put in the 5th of August, and I had scheduled, because I knew that it was going to happen, I scheduled the meetings for the 8th of August to restart the process. And so the consultations are going to continue. They're going to continue. They have to continue, because we are in the phase of awareness. We need to share this project with the community to get all the feedback to make it more robust, a better project for the whole community, because the whole community has to agree with it and has to carry it.
So
Yes,
the question was, are you personally in agreement with the current draft, and is the incoming coalition also in agreement with it?
I personally understand how it's put together, and I understand how it can work. as well. The question that you have is a question that was asked in Parliament as well. Is the current coalition in agreement with it? We did have our presentation again also on the 8th of August with the Council of Ministers, and there wasn't any negative feedback from them after the meeting.
So the Council of Ministers in agreement.
We had a meeting with the Council of Ministers. I did not get any negative feedback. That's where I can take it. I can't tell you this one is in agreement, that one is not in agreement. I did not. We gave a whole presentation to the Council of Ministers on the 8th of August.
So tomorrow you return to Parliament for follow-up questions. Will you present Parliament the actual draft legislation for them to read and review?
I understood yesterday that I would not be going back to Parliament tomorrow because they didn't find a slot for me. So I am still waiting on a date when I go back. When I go back, I'm going to give them the answers to the questions that they asked. I presented a summary of the whole, so what GHI is about, the SAHA is about. I presented that when I was there last week.
Will you give them the actual draft legislation?
I would want to go back to CoM again, and I would want to continue the stakeholder consultations before bringing it to Parliament. I don't think it's ready to come to Parliament as yet.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Emil. I would now like to invite Judy Fitzpatrick of the Daily Herald. You have the floor.
Thank you so much. Good morning, Minister's colleagues.
morning.
My question is for the TIAT Minister. However, I do have a clarification on a comment you made earlier regarding the closure of the facility in Simpson Bay. And my clarification is, I would just like to get an idea, because you mentioned that one of the reasons for the closure had to do with financial irregularities. So was there some sort of financial impact? So for example, if they were paid funds that they were not supposed to have received, will any mechanisms be put in place to get those funds back? And also, you indicated that a possible solution would be extending the hours of general practitioners. Now, most general practitioners open from 8 to 5. So we also have to look at the situation of burnout if they do extend their hours. Is this a discussion that has been had? Are they even willing to open beyond the time that they have? That is my clarification. And my question, I would just ask it one time.
We'll let Minister answer, and then we'll switch over.
Okay, thank you so much. Sorry.
Yeah, again, the contract is between SZV and the HAP. And so any irregularities are with SZV. So SZV would be the one to say, okay, we're going to look to see where we take back money or whatever. I can offer a bit of explanation in how there is like a double payment. If my doctor is I'll just say Dr. A, and I decide that I am not going to Dr. A during working hours, but I'll go visit the HAP at 8 p.m. SZV is already paying Dr. A for me because I am registered with that doctor. So SZV is already paying for my services there. And now I'm going to the HAP, and now SZV is paying the HAP more money than what you would pay for a regular doctor visit, because it's HAP, it's after hours. So now we're paying there and we're paying here because we're paying for convenience, and that's not what it was made for. Okay. But since it has been identified that is what the majority of the people want, they want to be able to go to the doctor in the evening, and that's where now the discussions are being had. And when I had the meeting with the WIMA, so the general practitioners, the body, I was surprised that they indicated that they actually do house visits after hours. And they also indicated, that they do palliative care, where they go to homes when people are dying, etc. Because that was not my personal experience, and that is what we have been lacking, let's say, as a community, where you want to be able to go to your doctor. Like, I've lived in the Netherlands for nearly 10 years, and if you were really sick, the doctor would come to you, you know, the doctor would come with a bag and come and visit you. And in other islands, that's how it's done. But in St. Martin, a lot of doctors don't do it. But there are some doctors who have indicated that they do it. And I have heard from some patients, yes, my doctor has visited me after hours. So we are looking at in what way can we now have that after hours care? Is it going to be a call-in service, you know, like on an on-call basis? What is going to be the solution? But continuing something that is not working in the intended way, is not working according to the stipulations in the contract, and on top of that, you're putting this extra financial burden on a healthcare system that's already fragile. We cannot continue. So
Thank you.
that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Minister Heilige Martin.
Yes, thank you, Minister. So recently, 3 supermarkets and a gas station were fined for irregularities. The gas station was for not having the correct price for gas, and the supermarket for selling products above the stipulated price. However, the fine was 250 guilders. I mean, that's really nothing, no sort of a deterrent to prevent them from doing this again. So my question is, are there any plans to increase the fine for it to actually work as a deterrent to prevent these establishments from doing this to consumers?
One answer, yes.
Can you elaborate?
Yes, well, Miss, thank you for the question. Yes, I am actually considering that. I'm still going to meet with my cabinet staff. That's something I remember hearing 250 guilders. You know, remember, I'm just here in the position a few months, but there's a few things that we still need to really assess. And yes, 250 guilders to me is very, very low. And for us to really make an impact, it is something that we are really considering to increase. But once we have the deliberations and finding out on how much we can increase it and how we can go about doing that, I will be making an announcement on it. But it does have our attention, and yes, I am considering maybe increasing it. You want to triple it? We'll see. Any other questions for me before I leave?
Thank you, Minister. Let me invite Jacqueline Hofman of the Daily Herald. You have the floor. Do you by any chance have a question for Minister Heilige Martin?
No, I'm not leaving. I'm right here.
No, good morning. I have a question for the Minister of Justice.
Okay, no problem. I'll go again.
Good morning, Minister.
Good morning.
The parliamentary year has started, and the Minister of Justice is to present a list of all the projects that are funded from the Crime Fund this parliamentary year to the Chair of Parliament. When you became Minister of Justice in this press briefing, you said that when you saw the documentation of the Crime Fund, you said there was indication of mishandling of the fund. And some weeks ago, you said during the press briefing that at the time of request, there was 8 million in the fund, but now there is 4 million. So I have 2 questions. First, are you going to present the list to the Chair of Parliament? And second, where is the 4 million and what was it spent on?
Okay, with regards, I do know, excuse me. Good morning again. Good morning to the people of St. Martin, first of all, Ms. Hoffman. Good morning to the press, and good morning to those that are listening via either radio or on camera. However, I do have the information with regards where the 4 million went. I just cannot tell you from the top of my head at this moment. I also signed a document up to yesterday with regard to the auditing of the crime fund. I can get you that update at a subsequent time. That can be given, because I do have that information.
But the list, are you going to hand that to
the list?
Mrs.
If I have to hand the list to Parliament, I will do so in consultation with my my colleagues that worked for me.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. We now move on to the second round. Bibi, you have the floor. And also, can you indicate your minister?
Thank you. Ms. Heilige Martin, you left out part of the question that I asked you, and the question was, how much would the all-exclusive vacation cost government? Even though you're saying a hotel is involved, I'm sure there is some kind of cost to government, if you can provide that. And then my question would be for the Minister of VSR based on
Can I
a
finish my answer?
clarification.
Yes.
Let me finish my.
Minister?
First and foremost, Vivi, I cannot tell you how much a ticket will cost and give you an actual amount. An average ticket from the US to St. Martin is between 4 to sometimes 600, sometimes 700, sometimes 300, sometimes we're even lucky $200. So I can't give an actual amount, but the important thing to note is that we do have this within the budget. I can't actually say how much a ticket from the US to St. Martin would cost at this moment, as it fluctuates. Yes?
Thank you, Minister. Minister Janssen-Webster?
Minister, when you were explaining the situation with the HAP, besides the financial and other irregularities that were noticed, you mentioned a committee was established. Can you provide the media with a copy of the report so that, for the sake of transparency, so we can see exactly what transpired and to get the facts, from fiction? Another thing that I'd like to know, what about ATS? Don't they do controls? They had a contract in place. 6 months, extended another 6 months. And now you're finding out that there were financial irregularity. What's the purpose of ATS? And can you provide that report to us?
The SZV audit was done throughout the period, and then a written report was commissioned or started around June. That's when they identified, listen, something is going on. So it was noticed. It was noticed from before that something was going on, and that's why a real audit from SZV was commissioned in June, before they sent the notice to close down. And the end report was, let's say the written report was published in July. That report is an SZV report. I cannot provide you with that.
I'm talking about a committee that you established.
Yes, that was after. I do have that committee report. I did check with my people, and we consider it an internal report. I do consider it an internal report. I gave you the conclusions today. I mentioned most of them. There are other findings. I don't feel comfortable giving you all of the information as we are trying to work on a solution. I'm not going to, let's say, damage the organization that has to continue in their regular, the St. Martin Diagnostic Center. They have to continue. I'm not going to, let's say, damage them. We are working on fixing whatever has been found, whatever is there. And I have given you a list of some of the findings.
Thank you, Minister. No, you may not. We now move on. Emily of Island 92 Radio, you have the floor.
That's for me as well?
For Minister Gums.
Yep.
My question's sort of a general question. Previously, Vromi was in charge, was the shareholder representative, was the point person for GB. In government now, in the current Council of Ministers, in your current structure, can you explain what is Vromi's responsibilities towards GB, and more general, how does who's the point person for GB, airport, harbor, post office? Tell them. It seems that most of them have fallen under the Prime Minister now. So can you explain the oversight function? Who's the point person for the different entities?
Indeed. Thank you, Emil. Let me give a little brief history. Back in 2013, the then Council of Ministers issued a national decree, which sort of, for lack of a better word, divides up the different agencies and companies that belong to or responsibility of government. Within that decree, that was done. And then in 2015, I believe, a discussion was had in terms of centralizing government-owned companies, agencies, to which then a sort of a new draft was made, which would kind of put the Council of Ministers as a shareholder rep of all government-owned companies, with the focal minister in charge of that sort of agenda or company's responsibility. I think what has happened in the last couple of months is that, having come in as a Council of Ministers collectively in May, there's been a number of, let's call them fires, that have kind of centralized a lot of the need to have the centralization of what is said about government companies to one person. The discussion, of course, is usually taken and decisions are taken in CoM, with one sort of focal point being the Prime Minister currently, who sort of goes out publicly discussing what's happening. I think in that way you kind of mitigate any kind of mixed messaging, particularly with the companies in the crisis mode. But I think what has to happen going forward, when we sort of stabilize again, is that we revisit basically which minister actually plays the more key role in terms of the government-owned companies to which the law establishes who has that responsibility. One critical thing, of course, is that it does work in the sense of sort of key decision-making on strategy is taken by CoM. What needs to go back to happening is that regular discussions between the line ministry and the responsible company has to be reestablished and strengthened. Because I think what's you kind of see now is that a lot of decisions are kind of announced and it might not necessarily be fully in discussion with what the ministry who is charged with it kind of has in their planning. So I think definitely what has to happen is a revamping of the communication lines between the respective ministers and the company, with, of course, respecting the Council of Ministers' role in terms of strategic decision making. Yeah.
Thank you, Minister. I would now like to invite Judy. You have the floor.
Thank you so much. I would like to request the presence of the Education Minister, please.
Yep.
Very good morning to you, Minister.
Good morning,
2 weeks
Judy.
ago, I asked about the situation with textbooks at public schools. Many of them had not yet received their textbooks, and you indicated that you had a meeting that same day with the Education Department, and you would have asked about that. They still don't have the books. What is the situation, and why is it that public schools every year have to go through the same thing, where, you know, they don't get the materials to work with? So when would this be resolved? And also, I'm not sure if this falls under your capacity, Minister. However, there has been an ongoing situation, because you did say you're working till the last day, correct? Okay.
Correct.
There has been a situation where notaries had pulled the handbrakes on the signing of deeds for long lease land because of the absence of a policy. Is that for you? Is that
No,
under your?
that'd be for
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay. With regard to textbooks, however, I think it was last week, I approached some of my colleagues. I saw them busy with a set of boxes and assorting books. So hopefully everything will be resolved in short. We always have a capacity of, the lack of capacity of, of personnel. So I saw only 3 ladies there doing it. We don't have no men. And I see books from the bottom of the floor until nearly the roof right in this building. So once they're finished, I think they will do the necessary, and the books will be disbursed to whom supposed to get those books.
Yeah. I just wanted to get an idea, because we all know that school starts in August.
Yes.
So why do we always have to go through this with public schools?
However, I'm just the minister for 4 months, so I do
Yeah.
understand your question, also as an individual that have children as well. And it is a question that I have to bring to the Department of Public Education as to why. We are also having discussions where I did mention we have the public school education and we have Catholic schools, etc. But I would like every one of us to be on the same level, also with the way that we act, and also the type of quality education that the other schools give, that we also give that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Minister. I would now like to invite Jacqueline.
Thank you. I have a question for the Minister of VSA. In the year report of the 2023 year report of the Joint Court, there is a list of all the different cases that are handled, and also a comparison between Aruba, Curacao, Sint Maarten, and the Best Islands. And in this list it says KZ, which is krankzinnigverklaring.
Yeah.
and that is to have patients, mental health patients, locked up and medicated under duress. It says in the year report, this is a responsibility of the court to decide on that, to evaluate the advice of the psychiatrist. So in the comparison, it said that in 2022, Aruba had 1 request to the court. In 2023, it was 4 requests, and Curaçao had 74 requests in 2022, and in 23 it was 89 requests. So in total went up 24%. But St. Martin has 0 in 2022 and 0 in 2023. But we all know, and through the stories in the media also, we have all reported on the patients that died. And those were patients that were under duress, under CAZ. So my question to you is, since you became the Minister of ASI, have you signed any CAZ statements? And if you have, how do you justify that for yourself, knowing that you don't have any medical background? And if you didn't sign them, then who did? Because in the meantime, people have been locked up and are receiving injections against their will.
Yes. During my time, I have signed CAZ requests. They come in with an elaborate medical report from the psychiatrist. They also come in, so those requests come in as well with letters to the the various instances, some that you mentioned there as well, indicating of these cases. I have also had so far 1 that came in via the justice system as well. That came, so now the 0 will be at least 1 that came directly from the justice system. What happens is that if someone is a threat to themselves or to the community, the assessment is done by the psychiatrists at a mental health foundation. So they end up in the system, and then the report is made up, and that is what is sent on. Yes.
Okay.
You know that the psychiatrist, the medical director of HF, is held responsible by the court for the death of Carlette Julien, and maybe also following others. There are 6 patients of her patients who died, and she has now been dismissed. So how do you know that you can trust a psychiatrist evaluation, seeing that this psychiatrist is responsible for the death of at least 1 person?
I don't think that I have received any advices or any reports from that specific psychiatrist. If you're saying, how do I know that I can trust whatever psychiatrist comes, it is an issue that is brought forward to me, and a decision has to be made if you're going to secure the community when the person is a threat to the community, or if you're going to secure the person. I think I've always mentioned that mental health is very dear to me, in having had family members afflicted by mental health, and sometimes these difficult decisions have to be taken. Before I sign, I always verify if there is room. I can tell you right now, there are people in our community who there is a request, but there is no room now to take them up in a responsible manner. So they are not being placed. If I know that they can be placed in a responsible manner, which means that the specific location in the facility is available, then and I look at the report, then I do sign. It's a difficult decision every time.
Thank you, Minister. We now move on to the 3rd and final round. As we do have 10 minutes, I would like to ask just one question, please. Phoebe, you have the floor.
Thank you, Relaika. My question is to the Minister of Rumi. Minister Gums, since taking office in May, have the ministry been following the land policy that has been detailed by a judge? If not, how do you guarantee equal opportunity? And can you also give us an update on the road projects, road repair projects?
Thank you. Indeed, I'm guessing you're referring to the DDAM arrest regarding the issuance of public land to persons. Indeed, this has formed a very big part of my governing program. And as much as I don't like to make these things political in a government setting, I think it's something that our party has championed a lot. You have to have a policy in which you issue land. To date, no policy has been submitted or presented. This is what this current government is working on in terms of a plan on how we issue land. What has been done in the past, and we can speak about it very openly, is that some persons have had requests from the 1970s, have never received a piece of land. A minister comes in November, and the issue of land is given in December. So where is the equity in terms of someone actually needing a piece of land to build a house and someone needing a piece of land to make a commercial venture, having already had 5 houses, for example? One of the things we are focused on, actually, and forms part of our country packages, is focusing on E7, which is part of the land and housing policy that Romy is currently working on, along with the consultants. I've actually had a meeting just last week with Housing Foundation regarding creating a vision, not only for housing, but also internally with our policy department, how we're going to come to a solution in terms of how we're going to issue land. One of the key things, of course, is that we have limited land. So in what criteria do you give it out in? Will there be a criteria, or will there be, for example, an issue of like a lottery with criteria to enter this lottery? So these are all things that are being explored. The idea, of course, is to have these sort of policies put in place as soon as possible, because, of course, without a policy, we cannot, as government, issue any new land to anyone currently. What we can do, we have continued to do, is do extensions. So someone has a piece of government-owned land and it's expiring, the deed or the long lease, we can extend that another 60 years, for example. Or we can do, what's the second one? I forgot. Extensions, and as well as sales of existing owned pieces of land. But we can't itself issue a new piece of land to someone. Oh yes, and of course the road resurfacing project. There's 2 of them actually. Resurfacing is the one that I started when I took office. That was signed in July, and is the one of the hard servicing started in March, April by the previous administration. The road hard servicing is progressing. It's important to note that a number of issues have come up regarding, one, the quality of the road and how it was being built, and as well the budget allocated in March by the previous administration to hard surface roads. So this is why, contrary to popular rumor, this minister has not stopped roadworks in certain areas, particularly in Dutch Quarter. The budget allocation for several of those projects have run out, also in Cassava Road. So again, it goes back to what I said several times. It's not enough to want to just take a picture. You have to do proper planning and sustainable planning in terms of making things happen. We now are going to take it upon ourselves to investigate what can be done to sort of salvage some of those roads which are partially done, and also address the quality in which they have been done, because we've gotten a number of complaints regarding the road hard surfacing project. When it comes to the resurfacing project, we're going to start that in October. I think that was mentioned today in today's press release, which will also include not only just fixing the roads, but also to increasing drainage, proper lines that last longer than 3 months, as well as also improvement of beautification in areas. It also would include, and very importantly as well, the rerouting of traffic routes in some areas to increase traffic flow. One of the key areas we're looking at, for example, is Canagator Street, in the junction between Real Auto and former Van Dorp building, where persons usually have a bottleneck coming in and out of Phillipsburg. The idea, for example, is to make that area only accessible to come into town and not to leave town. So throughout the next couple of weeks, you'll get a number of notifications about traffic changes, as well as the plan of approach to how we're going to do the road repairs to make sure that we mitigate any efforts to impact cruise tourism or any tourists by my colleague minister. Yep.
Thank you, Minister. Emily, again, we have 5 minutes, so please.
Sure, I'll
short.
make it quick. For the Minister of TIAT, I've noticed that the Department of Tourism has issued a terms of reference for a multi-channel destination brand campaign. So where they will execute a brand awareness campaign in the United States, Europe, and Latin America. So you're requesting 10 bids for this. But the tourist office has agreements with marketing firms in the United States, Europe, and South America. So it seems like you're overlapping or duplicating functions. Can you explain what's the idea behind this?
No, I thank you, Emil, for that question. I think it's just standard procedure that when a bid is over the budget allotment of 50,000 guineas, it has to go through a bidding procedure. I think one of them, from what I can recall, and I would have to confirm, so I'm not sure that I'm saying it correctly. I think one of the contracts has ended, and then they're literally just going through a standard procedure in the bidding process. But I'll reconfirm that and get back to you for sure on that. Yes?
Thank you, Minister. Judy, you have the floor.
Thank you. Minister Lewis, please. Yes, Minister. So there was a plan for air conditions at all public schools several months ago, and quite a few schools still don't have air codes in place. For example, the Dr. Alma Fleming Care Center, which houses students with special needs. I just wanted to know if you have any indication as to when they will be equipped, when the classrooms there will be equipped with air conditioning units. And you had mentioned recently at this forum.
Judy, unfortunately, we don't have the time, so I will let Minister answer that one question, and then we'll have to move on to your colleagues. Minister?
Thank you so much.
Okay, regarding the air conditioning, I know that they're busy doing the installations in several schools, but a particular school, I will have to ask them when they're going to do that. I cannot tell you exactly from the top of my head, as I am in a political function, they're doing their operational work, so I have to address the department head before giving you that answer that you're waiting on. Okay?
Thank you, Minister. Jacqueline?
Thank you. Final question to Minister of TIAT.
And you're ending it with a bang, right?
To protect their commercial interest, when I took the Curacao authorities to court, and then you intervened and you negotiated the deal. Now, Easy Air is free to come to St. Martin now.
Right.
They can do it if they're ready.
Well, yeah.
But on the other hand, Win Air is not completely free to fly to Curacao. So they're planning maybe to go to court again. Okay. So now you have a deal, but this government owned company, to protect its interests, has to go to court again to get the route fully
so I
served.
think you have it a little. Let me clarify it a bit for you.
Okay.
Do you have a question after that, or are you trying
No,
to make me help me? Okay, let me clarify it. So Z Air, at the point in the beginning, Z Air was at 7 flights, and they wanted to increase to 4 more flights to make it 11 flights. That's when Jet Air went bankrupt. Curacao has this policy of when you usually what the agreement is that you can have as much flights as you want. That's the unilateral agreement. But Curacao always asks how many flights. So they got the 4 flights extra. That was fine, but until a short amount of time. Then now with Jet Air down and people asking for more flights, Win Air asked for 10 flights. So they approved that. And in the meantime, we were okay with allowing Easy Air to come to St. Martin, unlimited, because we don't ask how long. We just stick to what's the rules that's there. So Win Air right now is allowed to do 10 flights a week up to April of next year. I know I have to end very soon, up to April of next year, but that's fine. That's not a problem. But they're asking now for unlimited flights from April onwards of next year. And if that is an issue, then they will be then taking them to court. So it's right now it's like a tug of war. Right now the issue is who is going to have the oversight? The FAA over the end plates, which are American airlines, American registered planes from Z Air or Curacao. We're waiting for that. But in the meantime, to allow an open mainly for air traffic open. We are allowing it until we hear from the FAA because they did meet with the FAA and they're busy with that. So when Air is just literally just holding on, they are doing 10 flights. They can do more, but this is until April, and then after that, if depending on how Curacao responds, they may be taking them to court again. And that's all I can say about that for now. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Members of the media, this does bring us to the end of the question and answer session. Any further questions can be sent to the Minister's Cabinet in writing. Honorable Ministers of the Council, members of the media, radio listeners, and online viewers, this brings us to the end of the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, September 18th, 2024. For rebroadcast, tune into stmartingov.org, St. Martin Gov Radio 107.9 FM, TeleTV Plus Channel 15, the official Facebook page of the Government of St. Martin, and YouTube channel, Government of St. Martin. For video on demand, log on to the Government of St. Martin's YouTube channel. On behalf of the Department of Communication and the Government of St. Martin, I am Roleika Roach and wishing you a pleasant day further.